Hi, friends. So today's theme is You Are Not Your Mind. There can be an incredible liberation to awaken into that statement. I know it sounds obvious or it sounds easy to practice, but honestly, we so quickly identify not just with our thoughts, but with the motion of what's involved with our thoughts, that it can disturb our peace, increase our stress, lead us into lots of tension. It can also, when our thoughts are aligned with the self that's not our thoughts, it can be the celebration or expression of the divine consciousness of our being. So when I was sitting with this, I was reflecting on two things. The first was a great graduate course I took in seminary where we were studying the development of theological and philosophical research when it comes to human beings being self-reflective consciousness. There's a lot to that. There's a lot to it. And yes, the beginning of this reflection is going to be a little bit heady. It's going to be a little bit scholarly. I loved that. Now, I want to put in context that I am not doing that as a way to say humans are different than animals or plants. I think the intelligence of species and how little we understand consciousness in other forms can lead us to make distinctions that may or may not be true. So I am not making a statement on humans compared to anything. We're just going to look at us as a human being when it comes to self-reflective consciousness. Because the mechanism of thought, which has many different aspects to it, is highly involved in self-reflection. And that self-reflection happens in relation in the world that we're in a lot of ways. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to make a couple reference points. And I also then wanted to read short excerpts from two contributors to thought in their day, Darwin and Descartes. I see we're getting a little scholastic here. I love philosophical thought and its contributions over time because of how it gives form to the prevailing thought of where it is and where it could be going. And I wouldn't say that philosophy is necessarily the pioneer. Sometimes it is, but it definitely is of its times. It gives evidence to the consciousness of the era in its ability to reflect upon reality and talk about it, and then from there offer construct and postulation towards new thought. Oh, I love philosophy. And I did a whole paper on Descartes, in addition to a bunch of other philosophers. So I'm going to draw upon this because this is going to add a little bit of dimension to the theme. I am not my thoughts. I am not my thinking brain, right? So I'm going to use thoughts as an umbrella term to activities of the brain. I am not my memories. I am not my cognitive functions. Use thought as kind of an umbrella term for that and more of what we're going to talk about. So let me read these two excerpts for you, and you can take them in nice and slow, nice and slow. So I'm drawing from a paper of a research paper that was published in 2005 in a scientific journal. And the title of this paper, scientific thesis, if you will, The Missing Link in Cognition, The Origins of Self-Reflective Consciousness. So I want to read the abstract first because it's very rich and it's worthy to sit with and to chew on a little bit. How do we develop self-awareness or a sense of self? One of the most popular theories is that language plays a major role. Language and the narrative form allow us to develop a sense of self because this sense is dependent upon representational thought and the psychological manipulation of representations. Some argue against this theory, claiming that more than language and representational thought is needed. Comparing human and animal cognition is a particularly powerful way of examining this disagreement. If animals possess self-awareness without having the representational linguistic capabilities of humans, then the comparison will provide significant evidence for the argument that language and narrative form do not play the only role, and that researchers may have overlooked a cognitive link. This book brings together the work of a group of researchers who show that self-awareness, metacognitions, and representational thought are unique to humans, and others who believe that precursors to self-reflective consciousness exist in non-human primates. Now, right there, I've gone against what I said, that we're not comparing. In this book, they are comparing as a way of shining a bit of light on what self-reflective consciousness is, or what we are as self-reflective consciousness. I'm not interested in comparing, but I love the last line in there that says that there are those that say that when we talk about this, we actually can't say that animals don't have self-reflective consciousness as well. We just don't have that kind of evidence and that ability to get into that methodology with what is happening with the consciousness in animals and plants, I include. But I use that there so you can provide a context for yourself. How do you develop self-awareness, or what is this sense of self? Self being the small s. We've talked about self as the big S. We're talking about self as the small s, because our meditation today is you are not your thoughts. So I want to read the two excerpts that they use as part of their methodology, Darwin and Descartes. And I'm going to focus on Descartes, but I want to put Darwin in there because I think it's interesting. So Darwin's one little phrase that they're including: we must admit that there is a much wider interval between one of the lowest fishes and one of the higher apes than between the ape and man. Yet this interval is filled up by numberless gradations. He lived 1809 to 1892. And I put a big question mark there. Is that true? Is that true? Is that true? Because you have in Descartes, who lived 1596 to 1650, you have in Descartes this lovely passage that ends with his classic, well-known statement that's considered seminal. Here he writes, because our senses sometimes deceive us, I want to focus exclusively on the search for truth. I thought it was necessary to do the exact opposite and reject as absolutely false everything in which I could imagine the slightest doubt, and to see as a result if anything remained among my beliefs that was completely indubitable. Thus, because our sense sometimes deceives us, I decided to assume that nothing was the way the senses made us imagine it. And because there are some people who make mistakes in reasoning, and commit logical fallacies, even in the simplest geometrical proofs. And I thought that I was as subject to mistakes as anyone else. I rejected as false all arguments that I had previously accepted as demonstrations. I hope you will re-listen to this passage. Finally, since I thought we could have all the same thoughts while asleep as we have while we are awake, although none of them is true at the same time, I decided to pretend that nothing that ever entered my mind was any more true than the illusions of my dreams. But I noticed immediately afterwards that while I thus wished to think that everything was false, it was necessarily the case that I, who was thinking this, was something. When I noticed this truth, I think, therefore I am, was so firm and certain that all the most extravagant assumptions of the skeptics were unable to shake it. He wrote that in 1637, 13 years before he died. Here is where we are at. It was necessarily the case that I, who was thinking this, was something. There, a sense of self. Now, we could bring in anything to that. We could bring in, I, who was feeling this, was something. I, who was sensing this, was something. I, who was perceiving this, was something. So I know I'm deviating from Descartes' interest here. I'm using this for our investigation as human consciousness. But there is something quite important there. What happens when you say that to yourself and you rest into it as true? I, who am sensing this, am something. And I'm not that, the sensing. I, who am thinking this, am something. And I'm not that, the thought. I, who am remembering this, am something. And I am not my memory. Do you see there that self-reflective consciousness as a quality of your being? It's a quality of your being. In the awakening process, is there to release you from the traps and the tendrils that leave you over-identified with your memory, your mind, your emotions, your sensing, your intuitions, your gifts, your connectivity. Do you see that those are all aspects of or qualities of a something that we call self little s? And as we rest into that self little s, there is a commingling of self capital S that naturally seems to happen. We'll have another session that goes a little more deeply there. See if you can find some rest in that, some relief, a little breathing space in that. It's magnificent, isn't it? It's magnificent. It's magnificent. So our meditation today, that is at the service of the anarchy of the wild heart, is a meditation using the breath and the statement, I am. We have done this once before in some other series. But on the inhale, we're going to do I, and on the exhale, we're going to do am, part of the time. Then other times, the inhale is going to be the I am, and the exhale is going to be a word I'm going to say. It's a quality of being. For instance, I am joy. And this can be said silently, silently. The breath can be what you focus on. So some will be I am, and some will be I am self. Right? But all of that is geared to the experience of I am thinking, therefore I must be something. I am feeling, therefore I must be something. And the whole host of things we can say that I won't go through again. All right? All right, my friends. I invite you to close your eyes. And bring your attention to your breath. And we're going to begin on the inhale saying I am, and on the exhale saying self. Taking a deep breath, hold, and release. And we begin. Inhale, I am. Exhale, self. 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 Continue 5 times at your own pace. And now inhale, I am. Exhale, divine. 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 Continue 5 times at your own pace. Inhale, I am. Exhale, peace. 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 5 times on your own. Inhale, I am. Exhale, love. 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 5 times on your own. Inhale, I am. Exhale, beauty. Inhale, I am. Exhale, beauty. Inhale, I am. Exhale, beauty. Continue 5 more on your own. We move into I am. Inhale, I. Exhale, am. Inhale, I. Exhale, am. Inhale, I. Exhale, am. Inhale, I. Exhale, am. 5 more times on your own. Slowly bring this meditation to a close. Release all the phrases. Invite in a breath. Draw the palms together in front of the heart as you hold the breath. Exhale, bowing the head to the hands. And opening the eyes with the phrase, Namaste. Namaste, my friends. Remember, you are not your thoughts.